Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Hello and welcome to this week's Countryside. Here on Manx Radio, I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. Last week I went over to Knockailu to the Mart and caught up with auctioneer Peter Quayle.
And I popped along to speak to the Marine Officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust, Lara Howe, who was freshly back from a trip to the Calf of Man. But firstly, Kirree, a great drive, I think, for tree planting lately and the reclaiming of lots of farmland, hasn't there, been over the years, you know, with the implementation of new drainage in certain places. This has been going on for quite a few years, but certainly lots of farms getting encouraged to do a little bit more to get trees put in and to reclaim lands and maybe set up some wetlands and ponds.
That's it. It's getting that balance between productive land and maybe non-productive land, but actually embracing it, harnessing, putting new, like you say, trees, fruit trees, areas for nature to enjoy and us alike take a walk through. But it's getting that balance of modern farming with some of the yesteryear and keeping the nature on side. Yeah, well, we got invited to Orrisdale Loop Road in Kirkmichael to Ballarhennie Estate because they had a bit of an open day showing around what they've done there with the wetlands and the planting of trees. And what a guide to show me, Alan Kermode.
Yes, well, I'm no expert. All I've given them is my experience that I've had over a number of years, me successes and me failures, and that they can learn from them and hopefully implement some of them.
Now, it's been a fairly, I don't know, it's 13 years, is it? You started it, and what got you going with that to start to do the first trees? Because you showed us the first trees there where you first planted them, and you've never stopped since, by the look of it.
No, but you're very apprehensive because back then planting trees in agricultural land was basically a no-no, and I was very apprehensive, and then you just get emboldened over time, and now it's become the thing to do, planting trees in the environment. But I think it's always been in me. I wouldn't describe myself as an environmentalist, just like my father, a countryman at heart.
Yeah. But the nice, everyone was asking questions. You've seen the wetlands where you've made the lakes out of just a tiny little sort of end of a drain, by the sounds of things, that you created the lakes from.
Yeah, it's surprising if you work with what you've got. If you have a little bit of wetland, you can extend it and improve it. Work with what you've got. Even on sandy ground, you can still retain water, and that's great for wildlife.
Yeah, because people will think, oh, we're too close to the sea, we're too exposed, we're too sandy. But you've got such a variety and planning, has that helped that? Where to put the trees and which to put in the different areas?
Well, obviously you do your research, and I think with finding certain species, I mean, I pointed out that O'Leary is evergreen. It's compact. It does make a very good bomb-proof hedge, and the old favourites, sycamore and willow. These are the workhorses. To plant behind them, you can put your oaks, your elms and beeches in behind, but you must get shelter. Shelter is key to planting more than ground, more than the soil conditions. It's the wind. You must try and mitigate the wind.
Did you have to do a lot planting them? I mean, taking the holes down. Did you have to get special fertilisers and manures in to put underneath them?
No, some of the pines I had an auger at one time, and I would auger them in and put some rotted manure in. But to be fair, I've gone away from that, and they've all got away, and they're fine. I don't think it's necessary. It's not as if you're growing a specimen tree. You're putting your standard trees in, or a line of hedge, and I wouldn't go to two extremes.
But the nice thing, the people were asking lots of questions as we're going round, and you were honest enough to say over the 13 years or so that you've been doing it, what in hindsight you maybe do different this time around or the next time.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't have it. I didn't have a template. It was all, you were on the back foot, and you do your own research, and you learn by your mistakes. And I hope that people coming today can see what has worked and what maybe I would do on hindsight. And I think I think that's, you cannot beat experience. I haven't got the academic qualifications over this period, but I have got actual ground experience of what has worked and what hasn't worked, and I don't mind passing that on. I think, you know, that's basically what it's been about, to encourage other land users to come and implement the policies that this government now, the world over, it seems to be the number one ticket is plant trees and save the environment. Well, that's the rhetoric, but it's time we need to get a spade in the ground, and in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, hopefully the fruits will be there to see. It doesn't have to be by Alan Kermode or anybody else, but they just need to go in.
And that's...
and we'll have a better environment.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you raised there, because you've done this. I mean, there was schemes, I think, years ago to help you go. You've done all of this just through yourself. No assistance?
None whatsoever, no.
But what about going forward? I mean, there was a lot of manifestos in this latest general election that mentioned about climate change, global warming, and the countryside of the Isle of Man. Will this get acted upon?
Well, hopefully Alf Cannon and his new administration will hit the ground running and actually implement what needs to be done. Even the Queen of England is frustrated by people talking about it, world leaders even talking about it, but here in the Isle of Man we've got a unique opportunity now to actually implement these policies, and it's a combination of the Manx public, the Manx taxpayer will have to help the landowners of the Isle of Man if we want this environment, which we will all benefit from in the years to come. We will have a better environment. It has to be paid for. That's for the politicians to decide, but equally so the landowners, they have to be willing to implement, and hopefully they will.
You've done it on quite a vast scale now. I think it's one of them Pringle moments where you start and you haven't stopped. But I mean, your message really isn't nobody needs to do it on this scale, as long as they maybe get help with something.
Definitely not. It's not about, some people would plant maybe 10%, other people they might be down to 1% of their property. We can all play a part, we can all put a little dot and join all the dots up. The island will be a better place for it in the future. There's no doubt about that.
And the one thing about it was, you weren't reeling 200 or 300 different types of plants or trees that you put in.
No, I mean, basically they've been native broadleafs, deciduous, and predominantly Austrian pines, because they're the toughest pine I've found in these conditions.
Well, it's been a fabulous contrast of lanes with natural gorse in them, Alan, the trees you mentioned, but it's not gone without hard work from yourself.
No, it hasn't, but I only hope for two things. One, that the people with land can find somewhere on their property to implement just some of what I've done, but equally so, a place in their heart to want to implement it.
Alan Kermode from Ballarhennie Estate there in Kirkmichael showing me the brilliant work that they've been doing over a 13-year period, getting them trees in and getting the wetland area there. Great job, and really proud of what he's done so far, and great that hear him encouraging others to do the same, Kirree, isn't it?
That's it. He's ahead of his time at the minute, like we talk about in the last few weeks, a hot topic of the agri-environmental scheme and embracing nature. And I think, like I say, Alan's been at it for a decade and more now at his farm and under his own initiative, doing his bit for the countryside, and obviously enjoying it there with the family too. Yeah,
and not to be confused with the other Alan Kermode, who I don't think's planted a load of trees and done the wetlands. But great stuff. It was really great of Alan to invite everyone round, and his family there, and Ali as well. But things going fairly strongly. It was fantastic that you were at a well-known establishment, well, Tesco in Douglas last week, Kirree, and of course great to see that Manx meat on the shelves.
It has been slowly, but we've got there eventually. The pandemic came in the middle of everything, but it is just great to have that Manx offering for the Manx people. The local people deserve to have the choice, and to have one of the biggest supermarkets there now embrace Manx and take it on. I know it's very hard. You can't just go in the store and ask the manager to stock various products that are Manx locally grown. You have to go through the big process of the UK headquarters and hit all of the right levels, all the right audits, and deliver a product at a good price. And once you get through that, we can finally get it to the Manx people, and great interest. And I think the most common feedback on the day was it was about time.
Great, and we'll have more on that in the next series of Countryside. But relating to that, of course, somebody who gets one of the first views at it is Peter Quayle.
Peter Quayle, a well-known man in the farming community and auctioneer of central marts out there at Knockalo. And I caught up with Peter after a very busy day last Wednesday to see how trade was going.
The sheep sales went quite well earlier on. Started off at Ballarhennie. Sheep prices were good and ram prices. And since then, maybe not quite as good. We had a good sale for Dan Anna Carushas, which we helped this year for the first time. We sold quite a lot of sheep, but some have been, maybe they could have stood another 10 or 20 pounds, but when you're selling you always want a little bit more, when you're buying you want a little bit to pay a little bit less.
And that's it. Earlier part of the year, Peter, we were getting a fair price for the spring lambs that were going into Isle of Man meats, and this set a precedent for the sheep sales in the autumn this time.
Yes, the lamb price and the coal ewe price, especially whey, has been held up well, better than we've ever known. People have been happy to rear the stock, and at least they've got well paid or better paid than usual. Trouble is the other prices have all gone up accordingly, and the fertiliser and every other price has rocketed, some of them. So they've gained it in one hand, but they've lost it in the other hand.
Yeah, it's always getting that balance, isn't it? It is a bit of a tricky business. Agriculture does have its peaks and troughs, but here we're ready now for the autumn suckler calf sales. They're just ahead of us. Yes,
we look forward to. We've had a few cattle sales, and some weeks have been really good, and they've been a pleasure to sell. Others, if they're a little bit more dairy type, they've been a bit stickier, the prices. We've had a big sale today. Raymond Bruce and Hannah have had their dispersal sale. It was difficult. It was nice to see a good group of dairy farmers, which we don't often see at the mart. Lots of new faces or old faces, but we don't see them very often. But it's a sad day for Raymond and Hannah. I saw one of his daughters in tears. I think they sold one of their cows, and it's quite an emotional day when you sell your lifetime's work.
And that is it. It is a lifetime's work, and it's quite hard now, seemingly, for young people to get into agriculture.
There's always youngsters hoping to get in. Some are lucky, and their fathers are getting to an age where they're retiring and taking a bit easier. Some of them just keep going, and they maybe don't retire as early as they should. I think I've been told that as well. So, but we need the young people, and just at the moment there's not too many vacancies to come in, and not sure what the future holds. Sometimes when you look around the mart, and there are, the age profile is a little bit on the high side.
Yeah, and that is always difficult. Agriculture as an industry is changing so much. We're looking now to maybe take on the agri-environmental scheme. You know, these are all changes in our time, your time. It's huge.
Yeah. There's lots of them just a little bit concerned about the agri-environmental scheme. It just seems, with the world population growing, for us to start worrying sometimes about the birds and the bees and the flowers, and I'm just not too sure if it's the right approach. I know England are having second thoughts about it, as they are, especially with the way prices are going, and I know that I just think it's going to be very difficult, and it's fraught with all sorts of uncertainties, and I'm not sure if it's good for agriculture. Even though the Wildlife Trust guys that are in charge of it, I don't think we could get two better fellows that are helpful, and David Bellamy and Lee Morris, they're very helpful guys, but I'm just not too sure we're getting too far away from production, and I would hate to see the Isle of Man agricultural land deteriorate much more than it's doing naturally, sort of thing. I don't think it should be encouraged to go down that route too much.
Yeah, no, it is really hard, and we've got a few sales ahead of us, Peter. The Christmas mart, that won't be too far away.
No, but first, next week we've got a big suckler sale. There's about 150, some of the best sucklers on the island, so that's always one to look forward to. And the next fortnight after that, we've got quite a few cattle sales, and then we've got a couple of machinery sales as well. So the mart has been busy. It's nice to see it ticking over, and I think we had lots of people here today, as we do most weeks, and it's quite a social place just to catch up and find out how the other people are getting on and sharing problems. I think it helps sometimes.
No, you're absolutely right. And these social events are few and far between. It can be quite a lonely old job on the farm.
Well, some people work alone a lot of the time, and it is. I think it does them good to get to the mart and just see the prices, and it gives them an idea. And it doesn't always work the mart's benefit. Sometimes they go home and sell something privately because they know what the prices are then. But we appreciate those customers that do come. And we appreciate the customers that pay quickly, and it just keeps the mart ticking over. We've got a great staff, they work hard, we've got a great team.
They do, they really do work hard.
Well. Yeah.
That was Peter Quayle, the auctioneer from Central Marts, after a sale there at Knockalo.
Yes, great, and he's such a they're such a lovely family, Peter and the Quayles there, aren't they? And always enthusiastic and chatting to the farmers and find out a little bit more about them before he does his spiel in the ring. That's
right. It's not an easy job to stand on a rostrum and find bids through an audience of lots of people and as quick as he does. It's not an easy job for anybody, and he does it well. And like you say, it's a family effort. Sheila there, and latterly Richard Quayle, who we think in time will take over the running of it as well. But still all part of the family, and a great team of stockmen in the yards bringing the cattle forward to the ring, as he said at the end there. Without those, the mart would struggle a bit. But he's been saying the prices have been fairly good all year. It's remained steady. Agriculture is changing, costs are going up, like he says, about fertiliser and different things. So we'll see, as long as we sit tight and keep producing quality products here for Isle of Man meats or whatever destination the farmers choose, it'll bring good quality to the Isle of Man.
You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, Kirree, we've had a couple of visits to the Calf of Man in the past, and always brings back loads and loads of memories. And of course, on the forefront of that, we've had talking about the puffins this year, and of course the seals that are around the coast. And Lara Howe is the marine officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust, and I caught up with her straight out of the shower as she returned from the Calf of Man last week. And firstly, it's an exciting time at the point. Just back.
Yeah, good. It's really, really busy at the moment. We're obviously busy with the seal pups being born, and also it's the autumn migration for birds, so very busy time over there.
And the migration, it's proved a popular stopping point for birds over previous years, has it?
Yeah, it's as busy as ever. We're on track for similar records to previous years, which is really nice to see, so good numbers. The excitement for today was we had a tree sparrow came through, so that was quite nice.
Yeah, and I suppose you get the regular ones coming through, and just keeping an eye on them, and of course the team over there logging them down. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all the birds are noted down, and we have a daily log, and we keep track. But also we do ringing as part of the observatory, so that also gets recorded as well.
And what about the excitement when something new stops by? Is it still a buzz?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And sometimes that it can be the really mundane stuff actually can be a rarity for the calf. So prime example, we got very excited today because we had house sparrows, which to most of us here on the Isle of Man are really common and 10 a penny, but on the calf are really, really rare visitors. So we even get excited about what the rest of us would think is quite normal and common, but we also do get some really good rarities come through, and we definitely get very excited about those as well.
Yeah, well, back in my childhood at primary schools, going round to the calf on the little boat when we stayed at Port Erin, it was a massive thing, the puffins back then, and you've been a great pioneer in trying to encourage them back to the Calf of Man. How has that been going?
It's going well. I'm very pleased to say that back in the spring we had regular sightings of puffins around the calf again, but the really exciting news was the fact that we actually had a pair land on the calf. And a little while ago, some of you might have seen a picture of one of the live puffins snuggling up to one of the decoys. And we were really pleased to see that actually the next day when we went back to see what was happening, that there was one of the pair was there with nest material, which would suggest that they were trying to breed. So a real great excitement about that.
And one exciting thing, there's plenty of seals around the Isle of Man, but I suppose the population around the Calf of Man is a big one around that area between the Sound and the Calf. I mean, tricky one because the public love them, but does that cause problems occasionally?
It can do occasionally, yes. Obviously seal, the mums and the pups when they're on the beach can be distressed by people and dogs, of course, as well, and things like that. So it's very important we keep our distance. But I think members of the public are much better educated now and much more aware about keeping distance and things like that, and getting in touch with us and letting us know when there's a live seal pup when it hauls up on a public beach somewhere. So it's really nice to know that the public are getting in touch with us to let us know.
What about the numbers compared to other years? Are they staying pretty normal?
Yeah. Currently, obviously, the survey's still ongoing, but we're I think we've got just over 50 pups in the calf at the moment that have been born so far, which is on par with previous years. So yeah, hopefully we'll get 60-something pups again. So fairly stable population at the moment, which is good to see.
What attracts them to the coastal waters of the Isle of Man? Is it perfect for them?
Yeah, great conditions, lots of food around, nice areas to haul up, secluded beaches. We're not too overly, it's not heavily used by people. There's still few coves that can only be accessed by a boat or a kayak or something like that. So there's still places where they can haul up and feel safe from people. So yeah, lots of food around and nice beaches. Who wouldn't want to come to the Isle of Man?
Indeed. The Calf of Man, it is something special, but it is the sort of time and for going there and visiting more or less over for you and your team?
We're coming to the end of the season, yes. As I said, there's still lots going on with the seal pup surveys and the migration, but we are coming to the end of the season, yeah. The wardens, weather permitting, and that will play a big role in it. But in theory, we'll be coming off on the 9th of November and the season will then finish, so yeah.
Yeah, but you're a keen diver as well. You're still getting the chances to get underwater and around the coast of the Isle of Man, see anything interesting?
Yeah, absolutely. Still getting out diving, still loads of lovely stuff to see out there. The Isle of Man is great because you can always find somewhere to tuck in and out the wind and get in for a dive. So there's no excuses not to get wet. So yeah, lots to see. I was just thinking there was a report of a thresher shark that was brought in recently, wasn't there? I haven't caught up on that yet because I've been on the calf. But
you're trying to put people off diving.
Yeah, so somebody managed to catch a thresher shark, which is really unusual, but not unheard of for here.
But are they attracting other people, tourists, to dive around the water of the Isle of Man? Do they put forward a different interest?
Absolutely. I think the Isle of Man, for UK diving, we have some really good visibility. In a lot of places around the UK, the viz is only a few metres. Here we can have, up to 15 plus metres some years and at certain times of the year. Great life. The waters are very nutrient rich but low in pollution generally. So we have lots of life. Obviously, not that we see them so much now, but the basking sharks draw people over. Everyone loves seals. Everyone likes to go for a snorkel with a seal as well, as long as it's all done appropriately, of course. And yeah, I think there's a lot of wrecks around here as well, so technical divers like to come and do a lot of the wrecks as well. So yeah, I think we have a special, unique underwater world here that draws people in from elsewhere around the world, definitely.
So all in all, things are fairly stable in the marine world then around the Isle of Man? Yeah,
doing well at the moment. Yeah, everything seems to be on a fairly even keel. So yeah, bar the obvious usual sort of climate change and things like that's obviously ongoing and will be. But yeah, we seem to be doing okay so far.
Do you notice anything when you're diving in certain spots year after year that things have changed, that things weren't there one year and they've moved to another bit? just around the small coastline of the island?
Yeah, there are changes that you do see. There's an invasive species of seaweed called wireweed, Sargassum muticum, and we see a lot more of that now diving when we didn't before. And for some reason we seem to be having large explosions of sea hares, which are sort of like big sea slugs, and things like that. So things are changing, definitely. And obviously, you know, our seabird numbers are, in a lot of species, are declining. So there's also that knock-on effect that we're seeing, and most likely that's also linked with climate change. So there's lots of different things going on that we are starting to see those changes happening.
Marine Officer for the Manx Wildlife Trust, Lara Howe. And great to hear how things are getting on out there, and the interest that's on that little place, isn't it?
Oh, the fascination, especially this year, people booking staycations, and you're able to go over and stay in the hostel and spend a few days stone wall building and just getting back to nature, really. It's a great place just to shut off and switch off, and the journey over there is exciting. There's not, you know, all of the animals you see on the way, and the great heritage and story there is behind the Calf of Man. A great place. If you haven't been, it's definitely a must.
Yes, it is. OK, well, that wraps up this series of Countryside. Don't forget, you can listen again to all the Countryside programmes on Manx Radio's website, on the podcast or the Listen Again features. We must thank our wonderful producer for the last few series of Countryside, Sarah Hendy, who's, she's going, she says, to higher points. I don't know how she can get any higher than Countryside, Kirree. But she is sticking with Manx Radio, so don't worry about that. We wish her well in her new role. And we'll be seeing you in the next series of Countryside. So until then, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.